Thanks for watching Wednesday Debate Live with Taghrit Hussein here on Nile TV International. Tonight we'll be talking Africa, Viva Egypt, Viva Africa. How are we connecting African markets? As you know, dear viewers, that throughout 7 unforgettable days, and with the participation from nearly 75 countries, more than 1,600 business exhibitors, entrepreneurs, investors, financial experts, and an estimated 35,000 buyers and visitors, where Egypt has hosted the 3rd Intra-African Trade Fair from the 9th till the 15th of November, culminating earlier in the day under the main theme is all-in-one marketplace. The President participated in the inauguration of the 3rd edition of the Intra-African Trade Fair in Cairo, where His Excellency President Sisi toured the fair 2023 and listened to the detailed explanations about the various pavilions. Serving as a way that connect businesses to access the integrated African market, the Intra-African Trade Fair has presented throughout the different leaders and also pioneers with powerful keynotes and the panel discussions of this fair, the roundtable discussions and more. Interested mainly those countries in doing business with Africa and also exploring more about what Africa has to offer in the tourism potential. Tonight, I'm really delighted and have all the honor and pleasure having my guest of honor for tonight, Honorable Mr. Cuthbert Ncube, the Executive Chairman of the African Tourism Board, for the first exclusive live interview on Nile TV. Honorable, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is all mine. We're so excited and honored to be on your channel.
Thank you so much, and always a pleasure and honor to have with us Mrs. Nancy Abdel, the executive board member of ATB and one of the pioneers in the field. Also, Ms. Nancy has been really distinctive in representing Egypt as an ambassador to Africa, also before more than one country. Thank you so much, Ms. Nancy, for being with us. Together, we are going to be reading more about the conclusions of the Intra-African Trade Fair and how is it provided the unique platform for facilitating intra-African trade, and also investment will also be shedding light on how business community can take advantage of this fair and to use it further to explore business opportunities, with the virgin of the fair expected to witness finalization of trade deals that is worth billions of dollars. Short break and we will be back.
بناتي وأبنائي شباب العرب وإفريقيا، حلمنا في المستقبل. لقد صنع شبابنا العربي والإفريقي نموذجاً يحتذى به ويمكن البناء عليه في الحوار البناء الجاد، وأكدوا بأن تكاملنا العربي والإفريقي هدف قابل للتحقيق، كما أكدوا بلا شك أن اختلافاتنا هي قيمة مضافة تعزز التكامل ولم تكن أبداً سبباً للصدام والنزاع. شباب مصر والعرب وإفريقيا، أوصيكم بالتمسك بأحلامكم والعزم على تحقيقها دون حيود أو انحراف عن أهدافكم السامية. اعملوا بكل جهد واجتهاد من أجل مستقبلكم ومستقبل أوطانكم. اجعلوا الحوار وتقبل الآخر دستوركم، والإنسانية شريعتكم، والعمل منهجكم. تحيا مصر وتحيا أمتنا العربية وتحيا قارتنا الإفريقية. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Well, Honorable Ncube, it has been a great opportunity, for think tanks and decision makers all over Africa to come and explore opportunities together, to do business, and also explore the potential of what Africa has to offer. What's your impression of the trade fair this year?
Look, I think as Africa, we are on the right track. Remember the intra-Africa trade, that is an initiative embedded in the 2063 agenda items of the African Union, to say, how do we start appreciating one another? How do we start building corridors that will make Africa to be able to trade to each other? So our participation, we are so excited that deals have been signed, and also we have participated on the side event, especially when you look at the tourism investment, and whereby we are saying tourism has a power to unite us as the continent, and tourism has the power to open up corridors, as I've indicated. And tourism can be a powerful tool to join us together as a continent in driving the agenda items of 2063, especially looking at investment, looking at the opportunities that are so much vast across the 55 member states. So we are saying it is time for us to take advantage and grab the opportunity to start looking within, start looking at opportunities. We complement one another, each and every member state. I am so excited when you look at the developments, the infrastructure developments here. It shows the progressive of the leadership, visionary, to say, how do we start? We have so much to emulate from this beautiful jewel of Africa. And may I emphasize as well to say, Egypt plays a very pivotal role, especially reshaping the investment opportunities in Africa. And we need to pollinate from that. We need to start appreciating. We need to learn from one another. It's all about collaborations. How best can we collaborate among us ourselves? How best can we synergize our efforts, our endeavors towards a sustainable economic development and also economic recovery? As we all aware that we have gone through challenges as nations, and some of the countries, they haven't fully recovered. So tourism, then we're using it as a catalyst to say, how do we drive the domestic agenda? How do we drive the regional agenda? How do we drive the continental agenda? So that in unifying our resolves, coming together as nations, this is a powerhouse of our global community. Africa, let's seize this opportunity. And we appreciate these great endeavors through the Afrexim Bank, whom we have partnered with actually in having these side events, and the organizers as well, to say, how do we really bring tourism within the mainstream of these great initiatives?
Yes, Ms. Nancy, well, as Honorable said, that it has been a great opportunity to re-energize and to look definitely at the golden opportunities, knocking unconventional doors together. How did you see the fair this year?
Yes, as always, always very proud, of course, as an Egyptian, to see that my country is doing so well in terms of hosting different international events. I think we have, in many ways, really advanced when it comes to MICE tourism. And this is something I think we can share with our, brotherly African countries. Not to say that, anyone is less, of the African countries, but I think we can all learn from each other and also share best practices. I think the event was pretty well organized. I think, speaking, as one of the exhibitors, the African Tourism Board, I think we did have a good opportunity to meet with and network with many important organizations. We signed several MOUs. We're in the process of signing others. So I think it was a great way to meet with, identify, and even solidify partnerships, which is really important. We're very excited too that this year, we were able to also bring the tourism sector, on the agenda. And I think that as we move forward, I think this will be a permanent part of these sort of important international events, because there are so many intersections between tourism sector and then others like trade and investment, and even investment in the tourism sector. So I think most of our countries as a continent, we depend a lot on the tourism sector. So having that on the agenda, I think, was very important. Overall, I think it was a great event. I think it was a good opportunity, and I think that always looking forward to having more such events.
Yes, we're looking forward, Honorable, to have more of such events, and I guess it has been a busy visit this time in Egypt, and well, the main theme, connecting the African markets together, is very important. When we connect our African markets together, we are definitely exploring more about our strength and knowing more about unique platforms where we can focus more together in order to explore economic and investment opportunities. So how do you see the theme this year, the participation? The side event was great, and Nile TV International had all the honor to participate and share, and also to interview lots of important personalities attending and sharing, all hands in hand with the African Tourism Board in order to further market the Africa that we aspire, the one destination.
It's quite exciting. When you look at Egypt at large, you have tourism growth of 11.6% annually, which that number can actually be tripled. With the appreciation and looking within, as I indicated, that our focus is to say, how do we promote intra-Africa trade? How do we promote intra-Africa, tourism? As I indicated, that tourism has to be a tool that really brings and shapes us together. So once that corridor is well articulated, I can assure you that through the African Tourism Board, with our endeavors to say, how do we unify our forces? We want to triple that 11.6% when we look within the continent. So we are so excited, especially with various offerings. You have, I had the opportunity of exploring a little bit of exploration, where I realized that there is a big niche of your religious tourism, which hasn't been actually been exposed. It's a can of jewels that is half open, that needs to be tilted wide open, so that we start to appreciate that. You have the medical tourism. Egypt,
of course.
You are the best in terms of medical. And then we're looking at educational tourism again. We want to see exchange programs that cross-cut throughout the continent. And we need to pollinate. We need to be able to collaborate, so that we'll enhance our endeavors to say, how do we start appreciating tourism? How do we start benefiting fully? Africa hasn't benefited much in terms of tourism, with all its wide offerings. It's so sad that we are only enjoying about 2% of the global offerings of tourism. It cannot be business as usual. So Africa, we need to reposition ourselves. We need to start appreciating what we have, our diversity that sets us apart as a continent, our culture, our heritage. I grew up learning about John the Baptist, John the Baptist, and Elisha as well. Little did I know that you have a jewel here, where we went to one of the churches and they indicated that monasteries where possible some of his remains are there.
John the Baptist,
This is history. This is gold at your disposal. And The world, they don't know, they are not aware of all these beautiful, artificials you have. So we are saying as African Tourism Board, our task and our objectives, it's how do we position ourselves? How do we paint a positive picture that reflects the essence of our Africanisms? So Egypt has so much to offer. And our gathering through the intra-Africa trade has actually brought quite a lot of good memories, revivals, and we have actually learned a lot where we are going to tell the world, we are going to shout on top of our voices to say, come and explore. Medical tourism, come and explore. Religious tourism, come and explore and enjoy and reconnect your spiritual being as Africans.
Yes, we see, as Honorable said it, Mrs. Nancy, that Egypt has it all. The medical tourism, definitely, the religious tourism, the history. Of course, your visit to the pyramids is definitely going to be there in memory for a lifetime. And more beautiful moments in Egypt, also visiting more about our destinations. How can we market Egypt and definitely we're marketing Africa as a whole, exploring the potential that Africa has to offer, Ms. Nancy?
Absolutely. So the theme of, well, I'll tell you first, our mandate as the African Tourism Board is promoting Africa as one destination of choice. So every country, whether we're talking about Egypt, we're talking about South Africa, we're talking about South Sudan, any of those countries, we as African Tourism Board, since we're non-governmental and non-profit, we promote each and every country and all the amazing highlights they have to offer, whether it's tourism highlights or the culture. Our sideline event, the theme was African Tourism Sustainability and Investment Forum and Unlocking Africa's Tourism Potential Through Intra-African Trade. So the idea is to unlock this potential. We just gave a small sample, myself as a local board member of the African Tourism Board, to our team coming from various destinations in Africa, just a little taste of what Egypt has to offer in terms of, and I explained, we have the ancient Egyptian, history, we have the Coptic history, we have the Greek and Roman history, and we have the Islamic history. So it's so rich in terms of what Egypt has to offer. We have the beaches, and we have the oases, we have the desert. So much. At the same time, even a month is not enough to really explore what Egypt has to offer. But I think once people come, I'll just give you a quick example. Like in Uganda, one of the very important events and holidays surrounds around the martyrs. And you have people coming from all over Africa to attend this event. Much to my surprise as well, and our team, is there are also, when we visited several of these monasteries, there are also tombs of martyrs there as well. And that, very similar to what we've seen. And that can also, we can develop also those similar, religious tourism events, plus the Holy Family's journey in Egypt.
Of course.
So that is untapped in the sense of we can really need to promote that, because now with the situation going on in, beyond Egypt, religious tourism, it's an opportunity for Egypt to actually promote its religious tourism. And I think we should really, leverage that.
Yes, definitely. Well, the Intra-African Trade Fair is co-organized, as we know, by the African Export-Import Bank and the African Union, the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat. Well, NALDV International has been there in the heart of events, in the heart of the fair, covering exclusively ATB's sideline event and activities at the fair. I had all the honor of making exclusive interviews, conducting exclusives with top-notch representatives from different countries. His Excellency Yofik Kron, the Chief Executive Officer from Ghana, during the Intra-African Trade Fair, talking about African potential and what Africa has to offer economically and in the field of investment. Let's watch.
I believe that the authenticity of the uniqueness and diversity of Africa in itself is a natural opportunity for anybody. I mean, what Africa offers in terms of potential, of tourism potential, cannot be replicated anywhere. I keep saying Africa is a cradle of civilization, the birthplace of humanity, but has managed to maintain quite a lot of that history here. I mean, you come to Egypt, you see the pyramids, it tells you about civilizations that are 1,000 years old. You go to Zimbabwe, you see the Great Rocks, you see the lakes, you see the diversity of people. You come to Ghana till today, you can still even see slave routes. You can see some of the natural opportunities are there. Africa also offers a broad range of tourist potential. From ecotourism to cultural tourism, because we are very diverse. You have thousands of different cultures on the African continent. Our food, our dressing, our music, our sports, all contributes to global diversity and enrichment. And so in Africa, I think there's a new refocus on tourism being the lowest hanging fruit for transformation and inclusive growth, because through tourism, you have real inclusive growth where everybody participates, communities participate, policymakers participate, professionals participate. Now, the real challenge is how we can mobilize investment into tourism to make sure that it becomes a very credible investment, opportunity for economic growth and transform the lives of people in Africa. Today, we are seeing a lot of African footballers go outside, and the popular name Mo Salah, outside the continent playing football and creating other economies in there. We are seeing a number of African players in the NBA. We are seeing some of them in the NHL. So sports in itself becomes a major attraction, tourism attraction, where Africans participate. We are seeing our fabrics, our cloth. I was interested today to hear, it was very interesting to hear that somebody's looking for fabrics. They talk of Egyptian cotton. You know, somebody's looking for very good prints in Ghana, they look for kente cloth, which is unique. So it's just not a question of, we don't have artificial offerings, we have man-made offerings as well in Africa. Now, how do we redirect investment to actually monetize these potential assets? But the continent itself, because of its youth bracket and its population size, currently about 1.4 billion people, is enough market, you know, and we should encourage ourselves to visit ourselves. Coming to Egypt, I'm so excited that I have the opportunity to see the pyramids, but to also to see real historical relics. That Jesus was here, Mary was, Joseph were here, and the story of Moses.
Yes, Honorable, I'm going to ask you a question that has been actually put on wisely by our dear guest, Mr. Yofi Grant, when he said, how can we redirect the investments from Africa as a whole, working hand in hand in order to serve the tourism potential that the continent offers?
I think as Africans, we need to start appreciating on who we are. Authentic, as my colleague has indicated. We have the originality. And once we appreciate on who we are, I know that we still have quite a lot of challenges, especially now that the emphasis is to say, how do we start fully appreciating the intra-Africa trade? And there are fundamental issues that needs to be addressed. We had quite a number of our guests who were supposed to come and join us during this trade summit, but unfortunately because of visa regimes and so forth, they could not travel. So those are some of the predicaments that we need to really work on. We need a drive, we need a will, especially that's why we are saying as African Tourism Board, it's essential to have a closer synergy between the private sector and the public sector. Public sector, those are the guys who refine our policies, who make sure that the intra-Africa trade we're talking about, it's really fully appreciated within the African context. And the private sector, we come in, we are the doers. We make sure that things, they do happen on the ground. So we need a closer collaborations that will enhance and assist traveling within Africa. It's a nightmare when you have to travel from one member state to another. Actually, it's more convenient to travel to Europe from any destination in Africa, and it's even cheaper because of connectivity issues, because of visa regime issues. We need the will from our policymakers to say, how do we start to dismantle all these hiccups that are hindering a seamless exercise when we have to fully implement the intra-African trade? Africa has so much to offer. I mean, I was in Tanzania recently, and I love food, but good food, of course. Yes, they have this rice. They produce this rice that is so much unique. You cook it here, the aroma will fill this room. But we are saying, why are we not trading those beautiful commodities among us ourselves? Instead, we would rather go and buy rice from Brazil. There's nothing wrong, by the way. Yes, because we are part of the global community. Yes. But we are saying charity should begin at home. Right. Let's start to appreciate what we have. Your fabrics here, unique, authentic, fantastic cotton at its best. Why would I go and buy fabric from China, in that case? Cheaper, and the quality compromise. So we need to start to appreciate on who we are. We need then to start appreciating ourselves as member states. Unity of purpose to say, how do we develop our continent? And I have always maintained that Africa is destined to be one of the powerhouses of the world. That's why when you look at the winds that are shifting, everyone is positioning himself to be closer to Africa. Why are we not reading the winds as Africans to start to develop our own mechanisms that will sustain our economies, that will grow our economies, and keep the power economy among us ourselves? So we have so much to offer. We have so much in our disposals, and we complement one another. We were in Botswana recently, where they produce the best diamonds in the world. We were in Tanzania, where they produce the best, green stone. You cannot get it anywhere. But guys from Europe, they appreciate what Africa has. And they are making sure that we don't appreciate one another. We don't open up our borders. We don't ease the visa regimes, and we don't create mechanisms to make sure that there is a proper connectivity. Otherwise, we will still be sitting here 2 years down the line. We are talking about intra-Africa trade. That will be a talk show. So we are saying it is time to start implementing. Let's get the basics right so that we'll be able to make sure that it enhances and expedites our efforts in making sure that Africa starts trading among us himself. I was in just interest. I stood in the pinnacle of Cape Point. Cape Point, that's in South Africa, in Cape Town. That's where your two oceans meet, your Indian Ocean and Atlantic Ocean. When you stand up there, there is a map, a compass, that tells you that from Cape to Cairo, so many kilometers. I went to Tanzania recently. I stood on top of one of the pinnacles. They have the same compass to say from there to Cairo, how many kilometers. That on its own, it tells us that Africa, it is time for us to unite. Let's bridge the highways. Let's build the highways. Let's bridge the bridges so that we start connecting one another. We have so much to emulate. That's why on my opening remarks, I said what the infrastructure we are seeing here in Egypt is just beyond one's imagination. Every corner where you move, we have just completed a smart city in the middle of the desert. That one is, this is Africa. I said, this is my motherland, this is Africa. And I'm going to tell the world that Egypt is part of me. and it's part of Africa. So we need to come together. Let's explore, let's venture, let's collaborate, let's make things happen for our generation and generations to come.
Very inspiring and touchy words by Honorable. Yes, Egypt is part of you and part of Africa, part of us all. The mother of the world has hosted a great event that brought Africans together. Ms. Nancy, Mr. Yofi was talking also about the role of a very important tool, which is soft power, in order to bring Africans together and to explore the touristic potential. And of course, the soft power or the tools is definitely, we have the media among those important tools working to spread awareness of the treasures that Honorable was talking about, to be circulated all over Africa to make the best out of what we have. How are we utilizing our soft power strengths in Africa?
Thank you for that. Yes, absolutely. I think soft power is quite effective, and I think that includes, as you said, the influence of the media, and you have also culture. I mean, culture is another big part of that. And because as a continent we have such rich culture, we have such a young population of creatives, of also experts in the media field, very inspiring youth. I think once we actually take the initiative to tap into that very, valuable asset that we have as a continent, I think this will help us develop. And I think what the Honorable Cuthbert was saying, in the sense of we need to connect. We need to really, for myself, traveling to Uganda, feeling like I belong there, like this is, I'm home. And the same, for someone coming from Zambia and visiting Egypt, or from South Africa and feeling that they are part of this country as well. And then that's the thing. When we talk about promoting Africa as one destination, truly we're talking about uniting, as individual countries, we are fantastic, but as a continent, we are so intensely powerful, again, with the youth, with the women, and this is something that, again, African Tourism Board is almost representative of what our continent has to offer, because if you see, all of us were from different parts of Africa. We have representation that are women, we have representation that are youth, we have people from the north, southern part, east, west, central. So that's what really it's all about. Incidentally, we are also participating, and we invite, of course, Nile TV International to join us with the Cairo International Tourism Exhibition, which was going to be January 10th and 11th of next year. And this is an opportunity, again, for Egypt to outdo itself in hosting such an important event, really talking about the importance of tourism, the tourism sector. As the Honorable Yofi had said, each country has its value in terms of what we have to offer, like Egyptian cotton, and as he had mentioned, several other African countries with their amazing commodities. And I heard the term today, which I really loved, which was trade tourism. And the idea is there are so many crossovers or intersections between trade and investment and tourism. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement, this agreement is really historical, because it does aim to break away a lot of the challenges and obstacles that we face as a continent in terms of trading amongst ourselves, and with regarding, if you do away with a lot of the very strict visa restrictions. And one of our panels actually was on connectivity. Mm-hmm. Our first panel actually was talking about sustainable tourism, as this is something very important, including green tourism. We had one of the top experts in Egypt who played a big role with the Ministry of Tourism in terms of implementing, greener tourism. And we had also several ministers and several also, experts in the tourism space. But Another panel talked about the role of civil aviation in terms of bringing us together and promoting Africa. And we had some of the most important also, stakeholders in that space as well. And then the third panel talked about the role of women and SMEs in promoting tourism. And as we know, as a continent, we're very rich in terms of our highly educated, qualified youth and women. And I think we need a lot more improvement, but I think we are on the right road. And our final panel was talking about investment in the tourism sector. So as you can see, it was pretty comprehensive in terms of talking about what are those important issues on our agenda that we as a continent need to work together to start, tackling and start improving and start developing. And this is what this forum and these, forums are there for, is for us to have the conversation, to bring the decision makers and stakeholders, and to actually come up with some actual results and some actual points of action,
Yes, lots and lots of points of action actually has been discussed on the sidelines of this important gathering. And the African Tourism Board has been a strategic partner, as you know, with the World Tourism Network, working in order to promote all African destinations all over Africa. I had all the honor of meeting His Excellency Honorable Rizik Zakaria Hassan, the Minister of Tourism in South Sudan during the Inter-African Trade Fair. His Excellency Honorable Zakaria has talked to us also about the potential of South Sudan, how beautiful South Sudan is. Let's have a look.
We do believe, and it's an absolute fact, that Egypt, they have started this field and explored this field long time back. And based on that, Egypt and Egyptians, they have an accumulated experience in the tourism field, especially when it comes for the Nile tourism, it comes for the historical sites and heritage tourism, and many areas to mention. Egypt have gone very far. Despite other countries are trying, but I think Egyptians are the best in that field. Now, based on this fact, we want to collaborate with the Egypt and Egyptians tourism entities so that we at least we benefit some of their vast experience, because what matters in most of our African countries is capacity. Capacity matters, managerial aspect matters, and those are the areas which we thought would join our hands with our sisterly country, Egypt, to benefit of. Then next to these issues of funding and partnership. Yeah, here in Egypt we have very perfect investors, good investors, and who have well-versed understanding about tourism. Those are the relevant people whom we are planning to attract to South Sudan, as well as the tourists. For us, we thought ourselves, South Sudan and Egypt, we are one country. Then I think the Egyptian tourists should go to South Sudan at least to witness the great migration which we have there, as well as in South Sudan we have 18 national parks, protected areas, of which each park has its own uniqueness, plus the big five elephants, animals, they are there. Those are the opportunities which we are asking our brothers and sisters from this great nation to visit South Sudan.
It's a new beginning.
Oh, Africa, let us build our dream together. Honorable, we've seen lots of African opportunities, and it's high time that we would work together to definitely market the different African destinations. Africa is called the living tourist destination of the whole world. Why do you think it was named the living tourist destination in the world?
It is indeed a living destination to the global community. May I decry the role of media? You are the voice of the continent. You are the voice of destinations. Our stories have been told by somebody who does not even have a first hand with Africa. Somebody who does not even live in Africa, somebody who does not have the best interest with Africa. So we want, that's why our partnerships, which plays a very important role in driving the agenda of our Africanism. South Sudan What we read, you Google South Sudan, what do you see? The Google will tell you something very much distorted. If you Google Malawi, they will tell you a distorted story. But we have been there as Africa. It's our home. It's our home. We have so much in our disposal. So it is very much important for the media to take their position, especially in the context of our destinations. Let us reflect a good story. Let us tell the world. That's why it is paramount of importance to really make sure that we open up our corridors within our member states, so that once you have an appreciation within the continent, you'll be able to explore, you'll be able to tell a good story out there. So Africa is the home. And I've maintained that this is going to be the powerhouse of the global community. But let us first enjoy what God has given us, our heritage, our culture, our cuisinos. We had an opportunity of exploring in one of the churches there when we had an opportunity of eating with them. Best organic food.
All grown in the
all
church,
grown
the
from the that's what Africa is all about. So we need to start to appreciate, and we need to start pollinating, we need to start cooperating, collaborating, and make sure that we really move with our eyes. Let's tell a good story about Africa. Let's tell a good story of smiles in Africa. Africa is not congested with diseases, but Africa is really a home to the global community. So let's work together. Let's open up the corridors. That's why the emphasis is to say, as we are working with the African Union, to say, let's, Agenda 63, brilliant, but let's start implementing them now. Let's start enjoying those benefits now, and make sure that we leave a good legacy that will build and sustain our economies.
Yes. Well, we have lots and lots to share, and talking about Africa's treasures and what Africa has to offer could take like hours and hours. However, it has been a great opportunity to have you with us, Honorable Cuthbert Ncube, Executive Chairman of the African Tourism Board. Thank you so much for honoring us by your gracious presence live here on Nile TV International. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. The honor and pleasure is all ours.
Thank you. And I thank so much Mrs. Nancy Abdel Hady, Executive Board Member of ATB, for joining us and for always adding value. Thank you so much, Ms. Nancy.
Thank you so much. And if you just allow me to say very quickly, I would like to thank Nile TV International. I'd like to thank you personally for honestly, regularly covering Africa and, you know, putting it always on the agenda. And so this is what we need. This is what we need, more people like yourself and more channels like yours to really highlight the beauty of Africa. So we look forward to working together with you.
Sure, definitely. Let's put our hands together. Viva Egypt, Viva Africa, Viva, thank you so much. And thank you, dear viewers, for joining us. That was just more concerning the important inter-African trade fair that was held in Egypt. And it was a big blast and big and huge success, always up to expectations. Tomorrow, another team, and I'm Taghreed Hussein, thanking you all for watching.